Jinx is a character that I have always hated right from season 1 of Arcane, simply because her actions and the chaos she caused in season 1 is something that could have been entirely avoided if she had only listened to her sister Vi. But no, she went ahead with what she thought was right at the time and ended up jinxing everything, ironically living up to her name, which is one of the most fitting characters' name I've ever come across. My problem with Jinx, as I mentioned earlier, stems largely from her inability to listen, accept criticism, or take accountability for her actions. In season 1, as the youngest in the group, Jinx struggled to know her place. She constantly tried to tag along and keep up with Vi, Milo, and Klaga. She saw herself as their equal, when in reality she lacked the skills and the experiences to match with them, and her actions often brought about unnecessary risks and consequences. I can't entirely blame her for wanting to prove herself anyway, especially given the harsh survival of the fittest reality of the Undercity at the time. The moment that highlighted Jinx's inability to keep up with Vi and the team occurred when a fight broke out on their way back from the Piltover loot. Jinx couldn't fight anyone there because she doesn't stand a chance with them. Instead, she ran and in the process lost the loot. This heavily demonstrated her lack of readiness. I understand that her personality is being optimistic, but come on, anybody with common sense should know when to back off, sit some situations out, and let others handle things beyond their control, especially when you have someone like Vi who genuinely cared for you. Vi always cared for Powder and had her back. Even when Milo constantly criticized her, Vi would defend her time and time again. Yet Powder failed to see the love and wisdom behind Vi's actions. The one moment that truly made me hate Jinx's character in season 1 was when Vander was captured and the team planned to rescue him. Vi specifically begged Powder to stay behind, knowing how dangerous it would be after witnessing Benzo's brutal death at the hands of Silco's beasts. So why couldn't Powder see reasons with Vi? Why couldn't she respect her big sister's request to stay back and be safe? Instead, she chose to disobey that one request and ultimately costed everyone their lives in the process. Vi's request wasn't meant to belittle Powder, it was to protect her. Powder's actions was an innocent mistake, but it's a hard one to excuse because she was begged to stay away. Her constant need to prove herself to people clearly out of her league was what overshadowed her ability to trust her sister's judgment, a trust that would have kept her and everyone else safe. When Vi discovered that Powder was responsible for the explosion, her reaction was completely understandable. I believe anyone in Vi's position would have reacted the same way. Vi's anger wasn't just about the tragedy itself, but also about Powder's failure to listen, despite knowing the plea came from a place of love. She just couldn't understand it. I've seen people claim that Vi abandoned Powder. That is a baseless argument if you ask me, because it is one that is clearly ignoring the clear manipulation and the lack of accountability on Powder's part. Vi didn't abandon Powder, she just stepped away to grieve and process the devastation. What Powder did next was the final straw for me, and it also solidified my hatred for her. I know I've said it before, but this was the one that solidified it for me at the time. Instead of reflecting on her mistakes or trying to make amends with her sister, she quickly turned on Vi after their argument. Mind you, this was an argument sparked by her own actions. She chose to follow Silco over her blood sister, the only person who had always stood by her. It felt as if she completely erased their bond in favor of someone with ulterior motives, in this case Silco, and disregarded her entire history with Vi. I don't know, but tell me why I should be a fan of this character again. Not me. From that moment on, we watched Powder fully transform into Jinx under Silco's influence, becoming his adoptive daughter. During her time with Silco, it was clear that she was hurting and alone. She was desperately searching for answers. She believed Vi had abandoned her for good, unaware that Vi had been captured shortly after their fight. This tragic miscommunication messed her up, but it didn't make me become a fan of her character. I don't care. I understood her pain, but her refusal to take responsibility for her part in the chaos and her choice to side with Silco made it difficult for me to sympathize with her at the time. Moving on to season 2 of Arcane, I never expected Jinx to become a character that I would sympathize with. Her opening scene was so emotionally charged that it immediately set the tone for her arc. Watching her bury Silco was a powerful moment. You could feel her exhaustion and confusion about her life. It was clear that she no longer knew which path to follow after Silco died.
I used to say I could fix anything before I broke everything. She used to say a lot.
When she reflected on what Vi used to tell her, it became clear that she was on a path to redemption. That moment hinted that she would either learn from her mistakes or maybe start taking accountability for her actions, something that she has always lacked. It was powerful enough to make me start reconsidering my stance on her character. That is crazy because that was literally her debut scene of season 2. As the season progressed, we saw Jinx come to terms with her identity. She reconciled with her past as Powder and fully embraced her new self as Jinx. This acceptance for me lifted a huge burden off her shoulders, allowing her to feel lighter and more at peace. She no longer wrestled with her internal struggles about what was right or wrong. Meeting Isha was so pivotal in her journey. Isha brought a fresh perspective to her life, reminding her of her childhood and, showed her the life that she has been missing while isolated in pain and confusion. Through Isha, Jinx understands Vi's perspective better, especially the weight Vi must have carried while looking out for her. Isha became to Jinx what Powder had been to Vi, someone to protect and care for. This helped Jinx realize that Vi's actions were always rooted in love. Jinx meeting Vi again and them having this cute sibling fight was another major turning point for me. Their siblings fight was playful. It heavily contrasts the chaos in their previous encounters. It felt like they had reached an unspoken truce, and you could see how much it impacted them both. What stood out for me was how calm Jinx remained throughout this meeting. Unlike in season 1 where she battled her hallucinations and spiraled into chaos, she now appeared more at peace, having come to understand Vi better. This simply means growth, if you ask me. The only lingering issue was her disappointment over Vi siding with the enforcers. That was like a big deal for her, but then you can still clearly see that she's ready for the better. Finding the letter Vander wrote to Silco helped Jinx realize that much of the conflict between Silco and Vander was rooted in miscommunication.
If he found this, everything might have been different.
And also, Vander's return as Warwick allowed Jinx and Vi to revisit their shared past, relive precious memories, and rebuild their connection as sisters.
What if we stayed, helped them out?
We?
These new experiences allowed us to see Jinx in a different light beyond the psychotic persona she displayed in season 1. Another significant turning point for me was exploring an alternate version of Powder in another universe through Echo. In this explored universe, Jinx remained Powder. She grew into a genius and was even in a relationship with Echo, and the way their relationship was portrayed felt so soothing and refreshing. That was like one of the highlights of season 2 if you ask me, because it offered a glimpse of who she could have been without the trauma. Seeing how happy she was in that universe completely changed my perspective on her character. It shifted how I viewed Jinx, who up until then was the only version we knew. This alternate Powder made me sympathize with the Jinx of the real timeline, because when she attempted suicide, it was deeply compelling. I felt for her, and that is because we had already seen the untraumatized Powder. We've seen what she's like and what she can be. It helped us understand just how broken and lost she truly was in the real timeline. Jinx's redemption was crafted so beautifully that it's hard to even pinpoint the exact moment it began. There wasn't a single obvious turning point, just a gradual evolution that felt organic and genuine. By the end of season 2, I just couldn't hate her character anymore. Instead, I admired the complexity of her character and the brilliance of her journey. Silco's death in particular gave Jinx the clarity to reevaluate her life and choices. However, her greatest flaw remained her inability to fully reflect on her past actions and take accountability, because we didn't get a moment of reflection. If she had listened to Vi and stayed back during that Vander's rescue in season 1, so much of the tragedy that happened could have been avoided. But her overwhelming need to prove others wrong about her perceived weakness got the best of her and led her down a destructive path where she often shifted blame rather than owning her mistakes. Jinx's redemption arc is the smoothest and the most compelling I've ever seen. If you made it to this level of the video, you are the real MVP. I really appreciate you watching my videos. Please support the video by liking and subscribing to the channel. What do you think of Jinx in season 2? Do you think she redeemed herself? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys in my next video. I'm out of here.